5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Our faith tells us that Jesus is present to us in every person that we meet and in every circumstance that we face. But too often, we miss him, or at least I do. Why? And what can we do to notice Jesus, to see him more clearly when he reveals himself to us? That's what we're going to be talking about today on Ignition. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Dr. Chris Bergwald, and we want to set your faith ablaze so that you might live the adventure that comes from a relationship with Jesus Christ. Before we get into today's topic, we want you to know that we love listener feedback. So if you've got questions about today's episode, or if you have ideas for future episodes, please contact us. The easiest way to do so is by Ignition. Is by email. You didn't catch testing. They're clueless, folks. By email, the address is ignition@sfcatholic.org. Again, ignition@sfcatholic.org. I know it works because we got an email. I got an email from one of you as our listeners abroad in the across the Pacific Ocean. I'll just put it that way for now.
We can't say the place?
Well, I'm not going to yet because I haven't replied to the email. So I figure it's like...
Give him a shout out next week.
I've gotten more than one email from across the Pacific Ocean.
That's probably true. Yes.
Renae.
Oh, so, yes. You have a huge following.
Huge fan base I can't really specify more than that.
How about this? It's a growing fan base.
Growing. So I'm joined in studio as often, not always, but often by Renae Kranz. Hi, Renae.
Hi, Chris.
Renae, in case somebody, whether they're from Asia or
all those new listeners
across the Pacific somewhere, hasn't listened to Ignition, when you've been on before, would you mind saying hi, introduce yourself?
Sure. I am Renae Kranz. I am the interim communications director for the Diocese of Sioux Falls, also the editor for the Bishop's Bulletin, which is our monthly magazine. I am married to Ryan for 19 years and lived in Sioux Falls since 2005, so a little while. It's the place I've lived the longest now, I think, officially.
Really?
The town I've lived the longest, yes.
16 years?
Yes. Because because where I was born, I only lived until I was in 6th grade.
Then, yeah. But you moved in 6th grade. Okay. All right.
So this is officially the
There we go. And that's
longest.
Not a question that's ever on security questions
Right.
online,
Where did you live? Well, maybe it is. Where did you live the longest?
But you did? Oh, you did Sioux Falls. All right. So sometimes, Renae, I tell you far in advance.
Far, like 24 hours.
No, sometimes. No. Days in advance. Sometimes.
Yes.
What the topic is. Other times, I don't tell you in advance at all.
Today was complete surprise.
I
still really don't know.
Yes, I know. So for the listeners, for their sake. So sometimes I like to make you like the listener where, well, to be honest, the listener, if they're listening by podcast, they've probably read the description already, so they probably have more of an idea of what this episode is about. But if they're hearing listen on the radio, they are. It's just as much of a cold.
Yep. We're walking together, listeners.
Yeah, exactly.
You and me.
You in solidarity.
That's right. Please help me. Pray for me.
Renae's email is. So. Our faith tells us, this is what I said in the intro, our faith tells us that Jesus Christ is present to each of us in every other person who we encounter, and in every circumstance that we face. And so I'm going to walk through that again, but I'm going to go back. And too often, as I said, at least I miss him. I don't always recognize his presence. So what I want to talk about today is how we can grow in recognizing the presence of Jesus. But I want to start with just I treated it in an intro and just now as an assumption that everybody who's listening is going to agree with me about. But I want to actually address that assumption or presumption that is Jesus really present to me in every person, in every circumstance? Right. And I want to clarify, and in so doing, maybe up the ante. It's not just in the nice people. It's not
so
just...
even I can get included.
I didn't say
you didn't
that.
say it. I know.
won't talk about what you identify as your top strengths.
Right.
It's not just in the nice or virtuous or holy people. It's not just in the positive circumstances or experiences. Mm-hmm. It's in everyone and every circumstance. So even the hard people,
Right.
the difficult people, even the painful circumstance, that Jesus Christ is present to me in all of those is what our faith proposes to us. In every person and every circumstance, he's there, and he's there in a particular, and this is where he's there. Here's how I like to put it. He's there gazing on me in love, gazing on you in love.
Okay.
Now, some people, there's a person who it's this woman, and she just feels like that's so syrupy and like sappy, and
I might be in that camp.
Yeah, it's not you who I'm talking about.
I know, and I am not a sappy, syrupy person. So,
but I'm going to go with that for now anyway. And then I can rephrase that. Maybe will help. But as opposed to, okay, what do I mean by that? What I don't mean is he's not scowling at me.
Okay,
He's
right.
not wagging his finger at me.
Right.
It's always a gaze of love and affection, even when he's like, "Oh, Chris, what are you doing?"
Can I throw something in here real quick?
Please.
Because for anyone who's watching the series The Chosen, see, this makes me think of the most recent episode. I hope
Which I haven't seen yet, so don't spoil it.
Okay, well, there's a moment where it's basically a confession moment. And Jesus is looking at the person in exactly that way that I think you're describing. Because it's a hard moment for that person. And it's probably a hard moment for Jesus. So I think if any of you have seen that, if you haven't watched it yet, make sure you watch it. Because
can you attempt to give me the look that he gives the person? Are you able to do it? You can't. Yes, you can. Not right now. You can't.
Not right now.
Not
No.
right now. Okay.
No.
So
I'm sure I've given you the look.
but it's not. So Jesus, even when he is in the best possible sense of the word judging us,
Right.
he never condemns us at least in the sense that we normally understand that. Again, sort of finger wagging,
Right.
frowning,
And maybe judging is a bad word. Maybe it's more like serving justice.
Right. He's always judging us, but that's a good thing.
Right.
But we don't see it that way. So
Yeah.
So he's always in every face and circumstance. The proposal that our faith makes is that Jesus is present to me with love, tenderness, mercy, even if that love is hard. It's a quote unquote hard. So I think we see this, especially in close relationships. It's easy for me, especially as a dad, as a father, where I love my kids, and because I love them, sometimes I need to be hard with them, stern, I guess.
Stern, yeah.
So there's a way in which he can be stern, but that's always in love.
Mm-hmm.
But again, so either questions you or put yourself in the position of the listener right now. Renae, are you picking up what I'm laying down?
I am
are you
picking up what you're laying down.
You're buying what every face, every person, every circumstance.
Yes, I'm buying your premise.
Why
for
do
now.
why do you buy the premise?
Well, I've experienced it enough in different situations, not just the good ones, that I can buy that.
Okay,
and he says so.
And he says, okay, so two things. So your own experience and you trust him.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll let you pick here's what I'd love. And this is the cold, and you know what, I think you know what's coming. I'd love if you can offer, if you're willing to, give an example of a difficult circumstance, or I know that you could talk about a difficult person that you have encountered where you've somehow managed to see Jesus in them. But if there's an example that you can give of a difficult circumstance where you saw, another way to put it, the gaze of Jesus looking on you in love.
See, you should have asked that beforehand, because I'm going to be hit like blank, except for like the worst things in my life, and I'm not sure I want to do those.
Well, I know, but this is where the listeners they're right now thinking as they're driving or doing the dishes, they might be like trying to consider something as well. So I'm just right now filling time while you're considering, so it's not just dead air while people are. And if you don't have anything right now, but something pops into your head later, when as normally you're not listening to what I'm saying.
Well, does it have to be like a stern moment, or is it just a difficult?
Difficult moment. Not necessarily a stern look on his part, but a difficult moment where you recognize his presence to you, and again, that kind of sense of, I like to say, you saw his face.
I think Probably one I can think of is when my grandmother died. Gosh, this has been some years ago. My little brother was probably 15, I would say. His dad, my stepdad, had passed away just not very long before that, maybe within a year before that, which was very difficult, obviously, for all of us. He was 14 at the time. And when my grandmother passed away, I remember very distinctly, we were at the wake service the evening before. And it was very difficult for him because he had just lost his dad. So it was very difficult. He didn't know our grandmother all that well because she had Alzheimer's for a number of years. But seeing the people, all of us around him, comforting him and stuff, I'm going to cry. And knowing that Jesus was there, that even though this is a really difficult time, a really hard thing for him, it was hard for us too, but we were able to, because Jesus gives us the ability to do it,
right,
to comfort him and be there for him.
So did you, so
I don't know if that's a good example or not.
Well, so I think that's a great example of, particularly both for you, but even more so probably for your brother, where he, whether it'd be interesting to ask him, did he recognize at the moment or later that Jesus was present to him through you and those?
That would be. He'd be a great guest.
He would be. There we go.
He would be.
So, but even for you to have an awareness of Jesus's presence through you, and in others for your brother. Is there another? And again, you can that's a great example. Any other examples come to mind? Maybe where he was present directly, not through you, but to you in a difficult circumstance. Come to your mind.
It doesn't come to mind right away.
That's fine.
I'm sure they're there.
Oh, I know
they're there. But you put me on the spot.
I know I did. That's because it's fun. It's
no
good. It's entertaining for me, if not for the listeners, to make Renae Kranz squirm.
Yes.
But so difficult circumstances.
What about you?
So for me, usually it's around the areas where I need to grow.
Okay.
So a difficult circumstance where Jesus reveals himself to me. I'm not going to get specific, but I'll get specific. And I'm not going to get real. I'll get specific enough. There have definitely been times over the years where something's happening, and usually it's my pride that's being poked. And I've gotten to the point, thanks be to God, and part of what I want to do today is talk about how do you grow in this. I've got a long ways to go, but I've gotten to the point where I'm more able pretty quickly to recognize that, like in this case, like those vices rising up within you, I'm more able to recognize my pride welling up. But what about
a difficult
me?
One. Yeah.
And I'm able pretty quickly now to turn to him, Lord, and what I've been doing and how I deal with it has varied over time, but the last couple of years, Lord, save me, heal me, protect me. So I need healing from pride. I need more humility. I don't like it when he humiliates me in order to humble me.
It's not a comfy feeling.
Right.
But it's a needed one.
It is. But I've come to recognize that to sound melodramatic, but this is true. Take instances like those. God has orchestrated 13 billion years of cosmic history to arrive at this moment for me as an opportunity for me to stop throwing a toddler temper tantrum and to put on my big boy pants and mature as a human being, as a man, as a missionary disciple.
Right.
Those are difficult circumstances. He could save me from those. He could prevent those things from happening. Yeah. But he doesn't, because he wants me to, I don't think, well, sometimes he's put it this bluntly, grow up.
Grow up, Chris. That's what he's thinking, right?
But I don't. Chris. That's again, maybe that's a bit too harsh. Maybe he's more gentle than that. But that's those times where my vices are being. Other times he'll. Other instances I can think of where he will. Oh, you think you're Again, it's a pride. You think you're pretty. Again, this is my words, not his. You think you're pretty hot stuff here, and then and I fall.
I'm gonna knock you down at least a notch,
right?
Just
Or
for a second.
he allows me to be knocked down.
Yeah.
And he's present to me in those just as much as he's present to me. So the more positive. And there have been times, I don't know if I've talked about this with you on Ignition before. I've talked about it before, but there have been times. All right, what am I talking about? You'll find out in just a moment. But if you're just tuning in, you listen to Ignition. I'm your host, Dr. Chris Bergwald. Cliffhanger. Visiting with Renae Kranz about recognizing the presence of Jesus to us in every person we meet, every circumstance we face, even the bad ones, even the difficult people or the difficult circumstances. So it's easy for me. There have been times when I look at Jermaine, my wife, or any one of my kids. This has happened with all 5 of my kids, where I find myself fascinated by them. I'm looking at them, and I joke about this a little bit. I'm looking at Jermaine like, who are you, and what have you done with my wife? But I don't mean, but
in a good way.
But in a good way, like the mysterious nature of who she is. I will never completely know her.
Right.
We know that's true about God, but that's actually true even about the closest human relationships we have. You will never completely know your husband, Ryan. Not because he's hiding something from you. He's got a secret double life that you're unaware of. He actually works for the NSA, and he
sure, yeah.
But there's a way in which the human person is such a mystery that even those closest to us, we will never complete. So there are times when I'm in awe of my wife or any one of my kids for their own sake. But it's also true that in that moment, I'm also aware of how Jesus is present to me through them.
Okay.
It's a laugh, a look of affection or tenderness or love, a hug, a gesture of gratitude. That's them and him present to me through them.
So you've learned to recognize that.
Exactly.
And I think that's the hard part is most of us don't really recognize that.
No,
We're just going about our day like, oh, that was nice.
And I miss him most. So he's literally always present to me. And part of my daily prayers, this is what I do in the morning, is I reflect back. Okay, yesterday. So today, this morning is part of my daily prayer. So we're recording this last day of June 30th, Wednesday, June 30th, 2021. And I thought about yesterday. And I usually start at the end of the day and work backwards and try to reflect where the things it's the things I'm thankful for, but also where was he present. So I'm talking, where were you present to me? And Renae, like on a good day, I come up with half a dozen. On a good day, half a dozen things. And yet I know. So you said this earlier. You know that he's present to you by your experience because you've experienced his presence, even difficult. But you also know it by faith. But you trust him. You believe him.
Right.
He's told us, "I am with you always." Right. The church is teaching, crystallizing, synthesizing what he said in the Gospels. Tells us that that Jesus Christ this is Vatican II. Quoted by John Paul II all the time. Jesus Christ, in the incarnation, Jesus Christ, in a sense, has revealed himself to every man. He's joined himself, in a sense, to every person, every human being. So our faith tells us that it's true. Jesus said I'm with you always. But again, on a good day, looking back, I only recognize him half a dozen, maybe times. Right. Because I'm a work in progress. But so today, it's half a dozen times. 10 years ago, maybe a couple times. 20 years ago.
Or once a week.
Right. And I could, for a long time, I've been able to I know he's with me. Really? Where? When? When did you see him?
That's the good distinction because you can be thinking that, oh, yeah, sure he is, but you're not really paying attention anyway.
Correct. Yeah. So you're using awesome words here. You're not paying attention.
Yes.
You're not paying it. So how have I grown? Got a long ways to go. But how have I grown? How can any of us grow? First and foremost, the simple pay attention. So we have this sort of like, okay, he's there. How do I grow in seeing him? By paying attention, by being attentive. So my faith tells me. So I'm gonna get like real here, a case study, if you will.
Okay.
that Jesus Christ, right in this moment, as you and I are recording at almost noon on Wednesday, the 30th of June, that he's present to me through you? Do I recognize right now,
That's terrifying.
just to make you awkward and uncomfortable, do I recognize his presence to you right now? No.
Right.
No, it's not you. It's me, Renae.
It might be me.
No, because even if you were like really difficult, first
Right.
of all, why would I have you on the show? But let's just pretend.
Obviously.
But even if you were a really hard person for me to be with, my faith would tell me that he's present to me. So
Right.
how do I recognize him in you? Now I can't do this on the radio right now because
Watch the video.
right. But for me to be attentive to you, right? So that doesn't mean I'm like staring. And this is where it gets awkward for people.
Uncomfortably staring
right?
me down.
but it means so it's not like I like being like I would with my wife or you would with your husband holding hands across the table. Blah, blah.
Right now, Ryan's like, that doesn't happen.
So it's not like being like infatuated teenagers,
Right.
but it's being present. So pay your phrase, pay attention. It's me being attentive to the person in front of me. And that's way harder. It's very difficult for most of us.
Mostly because our brains are just going and they're like thinking about what should I say next and what
Right,
squirrel.
and neither of us have that thing that makes it really hard that aggravates that squirrel tendency that is our cell phones.
The phone, yeah.
Right? Devices make it really hard for us because we're always checking them. What's a boredom? So they make it really hard for us to sort of have the presence ourselves for me to be present to you. But that's something that how do we grow? By being attentive to the people we're with. But in order to do that, backing up even more, I have to be attentive to myself.
Yeah.
Am I comfortable with silence? Can I just sit? And even apart from prayer, where I'm sitting with the Lord, can I just sit in silence and be comfortable with myself and my own thoughts, whatever, for 5 minutes? For 1 minute.
Can the thoughts be out loud? Because I talk to myself a lot. So
Sure.
does
Well-
that count? Or does that now break the silence?
Well, but are you attentive to it depends what the thoughts are about, I guess,
Sure,
right?
yeah.
Right? I mean, can I be attentive to myself, and aware of myself? What am I feeling right now? What are the affections of my heart? Like, what's stirring in me? Can I name, no, we can't do this. Well, maybe we can. Renae, what are you thinking and feeling right now? Right now.
I actually was thinking about what I might need to say next.
Right. Okay, there we go. So self-awareness, you're able to do that.
Yeah.
You're able to do that.
Yeah.
So there are people like when we're on the early stages of maturity. See, I didn't say immature. I said when we're in the early stages of
You
maturity.
didn't need to. It was all right there.
It's hard to do that.
Yeah.
Like that's something, and you can. It's something that happens, but it'll happen more and more quickly if we practice being aware of ourselves.
Yeah, and we're ego driven, so we want to know what we're going to say next. We sound smart, and we're not
Totally.
Yeah.
So, but can we stop and just like what am I thinking right now?
Yeah.
Can I be aware of myself and how I'm feeling? Okay, so being attentive to myself, which allows me then, and we have to move on. It's not just about me.
Right.
Can I be present to and attentive to the person in front of me? Because if I can't, then I'm not going to be able to see Jesus through you.
This sounds difficult.
Practice makes perfect, though, right?
Yeah.
So I think it is difficult because we're fallen, we're sinners. Here's a
We're so
Latin.
self-absorbed.
We're curvatus in se, Renae. We're
Did you just call me
curvatus
insane?
in se. No, I didn't just
Not
call
today.
you insane.
Yeah, that was before.
We're curved in on ourselves.
Okay.
And remember in the Gospels, Jesus says, stand erect. So in a different context, he said, but we're curved because of our fallenness. We're turned in on ourselves, and we need to straighten so we can look up, but also look out. So I can look at I can't be turned in on myself. I have to stand up so I can look at the person that I'm with, apart from the Lord Himself, but so that I can recognize Him through you. If I'm just turned in on myself, It's going to be really hard for me to recognize you know how we get older in age, we get more hunched over, and those poor people. I remember just a few months ago seeing a gentleman walking in the street, and just he literally couldn't hold his head up. Just older in age. We unfortunately we sometimes do that not because of old age, but because we're sinners.
Yeah.
Stand up and look at the person you're with. And ask the Lord. So this is the next thing. Lord, help me to recognize you. Help me to see you. So be attentive to yourself. Be attentive to the people you're with. And ask the Lord in prayer, Lord, this is really hard. Mm-hmm. Help me. And he'll give you the grace. So this is not just all on you to figure out how to do.
Thank goodness.
Lord, amen. Give me the grace. So this is more foundational. Give me the grace, the strength to see you present to me in every circumstance, in every person that I encounter.
Someone comes to mind to me right now. Mother Teresa must have been really good at this.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe study some of her life, what she did. Might be helpful.
Ask her to help.
Yes, ask her to help.
Mother Teresa, give me the grace to do what you did.
Yeah.
So my entire life, a place that makes me very uncomfortable is a nursing home.
Oh, sure.
My entire life, and my dad is the opposite. And my mom too, but dad has always been. Well, I think both my parents, but frankly, Dad's the one who brings that up to me more often. Thanks, Dad. Dad's a regular.
I like
listener,
your dad.
so
he's
awesome.
Yeah.
Dad oftentimes will go to the nursing home to visit people who he knows.
Sure.
I've always been, since I was a kid, uncomfortable in nursing homes.
Yeah. I hear you.
But Mother Teresa had that great. I mean, people who, for whatever reason, were in difficult physical circumstances, she was able to recognize the presence of Jesus in them, and so she'd say she was ministering to Jesus, to the person, but she recognized Jesus in their midst.
Right.
So this is something, just as we're coming to the end of the show, that we're all able to do. So pray for the grace, the strength to do it. Turn to a Mother Teresa, another favorite saint, but then just practice makes perfect again. So grow in being present to yourself, but then being present to the people you're with. Renae, any thoughts just in the half minute we have left?
No, I'm just pretty happy I was able to think of something useful there at the end.
You did? You had all sorts of pay attention. So Jesus, folks, just Jesus is present to you. Recognize his presence. You know he's there. I'm telling you he's there. He's there. But ask him for the strength, ask him for the grace to reveal himself to you so that you can see him.
He said he would be there, so trust him.
Yeah. Renae, thanks for being here today.
Yeah, you bet.
Folks, that will wrap up this episode of Ignition. Again, you can email us, ignition@sfcatholic.org, with any thoughts, questions, or ideas for future episodes. And until next time, may God bless you.